Man, I absolutely love when Bakari Sellers is on CNN NewsNight. In this clip, we're going to see Bakari Sellers educate Israel first, pro-Israel influencer, child, Emily Austin on the realities of what's taking place with the war in Iran. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to hold my commentary, my perspective, and my thoughts towards the end. Let's get into it.
Live at the table, Bakari Sellers, Peter Meyer, Sarah Matthews, Emily Austin, and Anna Navarro. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening, I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Tonight, could talks between the U.S. and Iran be starting back up again? President Trump teased that very possibility today, telling the New York Post that to stay in Pakistan because, quote, something could be happening over the next 2 days. However, with no deal in sight yet, Trump is basically also saying that the war is over.
I had to divert because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. But we'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
But if talks continue later this week, sources tell CNN that Vice President J.D. Vance will once again lead those negotiations. And tonight, Vance says that he remains optimistic.
We made a ton of progress, but the reason why the deal is not yet done is because the president, he really wants a deal where Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, Iran is not state-sponsoring terrorism, but also the people of Iran can thrive and prosper and join the world economy. And that's the kind of Trumpian grand bargain that the president has put on the table. Man, we're going to keep on negotiating and try to make it happen. There's a lot of course, mistrust between Iran and the United States of America. You're not going to solve that problem overnight. But I feel very good about where we are.
So a lot of optimism from the president and his vice president. But Peter, it's not the first time that we've heard them express optimism about a negotiation when maybe that was a little bit too on the bright side. The gaps that they have to kind of bridge between Iran and the U.S. are still pretty large. President Trump told the New York Post that he was not pleased with reports that the U.S. had asked Iran to suspend its uranium enrichment for at least 2 decades during the last weekend's unsuccessful talks. I've been saying they can't have nuclear weapons, so I don't like the 20 years. Understandable, but Iran is at 5 years. So even getting to 20 years seems hard to do. Getting to never, ever, ever seems even harder.
And that's something that Donald Trump throughout negotiations has been very good at, is throwing something on the table and then removing it. Traditionally in a negotiation, you put it on the table. If it's on the table, great, it's up for discussion. It's kind of a sacrosanct thing. That is not his approach. Where we are right now, and I think this is where you see the naval blockade that the U.S. has started to enforce against Iranian ships that have left port in Iran or that are going to ports in Iran, forcing them to turn back, forcing them to not continue on their journey, denying the Iranians that oil revenue. That is ratcheting up the pressure against the regime to an inordinate amount. And where we are right now, frankly, I feel good about.
Do you have any reason to feel good about it? Meaning, like, any indications that we're actually close to a deal other than the president saying 2 days?
We don't know, except for like minor leaks, what has come out of the Islamabad talks and what the consequences have been when the Iranian delegation returned to Tehran and their conversations, right? We're relying on leaks there. But the reality is that the screws are being tightened to an inordinate degree against that regime at the moment. If I were in their shoes and looking around at all my options, you don't have any. So the question between 5 years and 20 years and never years, going between all of that, that is where ultimately at the end of the day, they need to figure out what is in their best interest.
I thought that regime was deposed, for one. And two, I think
I mean, the
Ayatollah
Khamenei's dead. Most of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard leadership are dead.
The fact is that we're still arguing for the same things that the JCPOA did.
No.
I mean, and
ballistic missiles and proxies.
Actually, if you want to go back to it, we actually had a deal in place where there was no nuclear enrichment within 20 years. We had this conversation last night. Correct, exactly, which we don't have right now. And then we also had inspectors going in, being able to check, trust, and verify what they were doing. We don't have that right now.
Which also would have ended a year and a half ago.
We also have something that most people don't want, which is that in order to get to where you're talking about, which is actually destroying their entire nuclear program, we have to put boots on the ground. And nobody wants to say, first of all, let's not lie to the American people. We actually know that their nuclear enrichment program is actually deep. Exactly. Yes. So let's not lie to folk and just say that we can just bomb from on. You cannot destroy their entire nuclear enrichment program unless you put boots on the ground. That's a fact. That's not something we're making up. That's not something we're just talking about on air.
Iranians, if in the context of a diplomatic negotiation, say, you know what, that highly enriched uranium we're sitting on, it is no longer beneficial for us to do that.
Bakari, we have boots on the water right now. I mean, let's
There's
not.
a ship in between.
Well, yes, I know there's a ship in between, but that ship can easily be targeted by Iranians, and they would be toast. So we have American lives. You're telling me that you don't think...
We've also lost American lives.
We've lost American lives, and we have American lives at risk there right now. So let's not pretend we don't.
I'm not going to dispute that. You're absolutely right. And there are realistically going to be boots on the ground. We have boots on the boat. That's
why is that realistically, though? Like,
why is it realistic? I'm agreeing with you.
I mean, I hear you.
Because I feel... I've heard a lot of reasons why people are really against what Trump has done, but I'm also not really hearing a rational response why we should let Iran just be. To pretend that this war was completely unnecessary and pretending that Iran is not a threat and pretending it's normal that they swear in their president and Ayatollah screaming death to America and pretending that enrichment is not a problem, whether it's short term or long term, when a regime literally hates Western values, when a regime attacks our allies, I also think it's being ignorant. Now, I don't want to copy what Europe is doing, where they want to mortgage their future for 10 years of comfortability at the expense of a long-term problem. So I appreciate the fact that maybe it's short-term pain for a longer-term solution. Is it ideal?
No. What's the pain? Because I heard the talking points and they're great, and I actually agree with some of you because some of what you said. Because listen, I don't want a nuclear-enriched Iran. I don't think Iran deserves to have a nuclear weapon. I think they sponsored terror for 40 years. I think they want to destroy America. I think they want to destroy Israel. I agree with all of those points, but I'm not the short-term pain thing. You just can't leap over that. So define that for me as we go forward, because
short-term pain, we're paying more for everything. I'm not going to sit here and deny that gas is not going to go up and groceries are unaffordable. I'm not going to be ignorant. But I also feel like if we don't do it now, I'm 24, it's going to bite me in the ass down the road at some point. I don't trust in Iran. I don't like that they're sponsoring terrorism. It's death to Israel, but it's death to America right after that.
But respectfully, when you were 16, we had a deal in place.
But do you think
it was
when
not
you were
sustainable?
Like I hear you're 24 now. When you were 16, we had a deal in place, and that deal is something that actually prevented them more so then from having a nuclear weapon than where we are today.
And what I will add to is
let me let Sarah have a word.
I will add that it took 20 months to negotiate the JCPOA.
That's a fact.
And then we also look at the Iraq-Iran war that lasted 8 years. I think the Iranian regime feels like they actually have the upper hand because it's in Trump's best interest to wrap this up, because he knows that the American people are not on board with this war. They're not on board with the short-term pain, if that's what you're saying, because I feel like there is no end in sight right now. It's wishful thinking for him to think that he's going to be able to wrap this up, and that's on his timeline. But for the Iranians, I think that they actually know that they have Trump backed into a corner right now because the American.
Well, I think they have one more.
I also think it's wishful thinking to think that there's not going to be a regime there that is going to be anti-Western and be screaming death to America.
But at least have them be afraid of America.
They're not afraid.
I promise
you, fundamentalists.
They don't like where they are
listen,
right now.
What people don't understand is what these fundamentalists over there who have not been deposed, who have not changed, it's like with gray hairs. You're 24, you don't have any. You pluck one out, 3 more come out.
I just learned
I agree. You can kill the person. You can't kill the ideology.
There has been no regime change.
To Sarah's point, time is a big factor here. And the president, he has this sense of urgency. You heard it in the Maria Bartiromo interview. He's saying 2 days and we're going to see progress. The war is already over. And Lindsey Graham is hearing all this. He's also talking to Trump. And here's what he's saying that he's worried about. Listen.
I could care less what words he uses. I want outcomes. As to delaying the negotiations or extending the ceasefire, I think it'd be a mistake.
But is he threatening civilian infrastructure?
We're comply with the law of war, but all hell's about to break loose on this regime. He's offering them the ability to exist as a nation, not as a state sponsor of terrorism. I'm afraid they're going to drag it out, and I would urge the president to stick to the deadline. And if they can't reach a deal acceptable to him, then he should finish the job.
So this kind of reminds me of Liberation Day. Trump said, he made a threat, he put it on the table. He said, you got to make a deal with us in 90 days. And they said 90 deals in 90 days. And then you know what happened? He kept extending the deadline over and over and over again. And that's what Lindsey Graham is talking about. He doesn't want the ceasefire deadline to keep getting extended, because the true realistic way of approaching this is to understand that getting a long-term deal, a permanent deal with Iran on their nuclear capabilities, on their ballistic missiles, on their funding of terror proxies is probably not going to happen in 6 days.
No,
I mean, is that realistic?
I think it's going to be, initially, there can be signals of what is on the table and what remains to be negotiated. And on the Iranian side of the house, committing to having free and open trade through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, on the U.S. side of the house, we still have sanctions that we're enforcing against the Iranians. So that's a point of contention.
So in other words, not a grand bargain, not the deal.
You're not going to get a grand bargain in a week.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, this is what J.D. Vance says, that that Trump wants a grand bargain. I don't think that they're being transparent with the American people about when that could feasibly happen, if it can happen at all.
But not only transparency. I mean, it's just like, if we're going to do this, why can't you calculate just what happens in the Strait of Hormuz? Why can't you calculate or understand what insurance companies are going to do in response to that? Like, we have been caught off guard every single step of the way. You're shaking your head, no.
I'm shaking my head. No.
Why? Tell me, explain to me, because
if there's any industry that
because now
Donald
we're paying,
Trump
now
would not have a very comprehensive and competent understanding of within his administration. I mean, what was the whole, Donald Trump is a sucker for the oil industry. Oh my God, he's got so many oil executives in there.
But first of all, the Strait of Hormuz,
Trump did say that he didn't expect them to
correct.
the Strait
Not
of Hormuz.
only that,
cutting off their nose to spite their
face.
But
I'm
just saying, I'm just telling you what he said.
Up and depose
he did say
exactly, but the Strait of Hormuz, it delivers 25% of the world's oil. And right now, oil prices in the country, in the United States of America, are up 50%. Like, we're not actually out here saying that Donald Trump is some magical genius. What we're saying is that he failed. Like, they failed.
I want to go back to what we were speaking about earlier, because I wanted to ask you, well, what's your alternative? And both of you seem that a deal is tangible. And I really want to ask you,
I got my alternative.
Do you think there's good faith negotiations with the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Absolutely not. I have a deal. I know what we're going to do.
Let's hear it.
The JCPOA. We did it already. Can we go to commercial? Like, there's no, they were further away.
Our American soldiers throughout the region didn't stop them from building ballistic missiles.
I feel like that's a symptom of
our
the bigger
European
problem.
NATO ally.
First of all, we have no allies left. Did you see the Italian Prime Minister today?
We have NATO treaty allies.
Did you see the Italian Prime Minister basically tell you that you're full of BS?
Talk about NATO.
Prime Minister Meloni.
One second. And not only that, but you actually asked our allies to help you in the Strait of Hormuz, and you know what they told you? Fly a kite.
Ask them to look out for their own
because they would rather be comfortable for 10 more years than
Nobody
actually
wants
bet
to
on
be
their
comfortable
future.
with Iran. What people want is competency and
They have
consistency.
suicidal empathy.
I will add to your question that you posed
Suicidal.
to me. I would like to see him negotiate a better deal than the JCPOA. I'm not saying that deal was perfect. By no means was it perfect. And there are other things that we could gain in negotiations with them. I just worry about his ability to negotiate and get a better deal, because I do think that the Iranians feel like they have him on his heels. They know that he feels a sense of urgency to wrap this war up, because this war is unpopular with the American people.
Call him up on the phone, because it seems to me everybody and their brother has his phone number, and he actually. Every reporter. I mean, this interview today with the New York Post, they called him and basically said, should we stay in Islamabad or should we leave? And the answer.
Yeah.
I love that. You want to talk about transparent?
And then he called them back.
And then he called them back and said, "Just stay there, because something's going to happen in a couple of days."
Well, at least we're hearing it straight from the source. Next for us, the back.
Do you know the problem with someone like Emily Austin, why you can't even have a conversation with her in good faith? Is because if you actually take a look and do a bit of research into Emily Austin, that was the blonde young lady who says she's 24 who spoke. She's Israel first. She is Israel first, without a shadow of a doubt. These people that say, yes, they're America first, they're pro-American, etc., etc. Just like Randy Fine, just like Laura Loomer, even though Laura Loomer is in no way Jewish at all. These people are Israel first. So it's interesting to me that she's not comfortable with Iran having nuclear weapons, but she's completely fine with Israel having nuclear weapons. The same Israel that just genocided 100,000 people over the past 2 years. It speaks absolute volumes. And what makes it even more interesting is this: the Israel that it is that she supports won't even declare, number one, that it is that they have nuclear weapons. And then on top of that, they won't even be part of the program that basically maintains stability across the world when it comes to checks and everything, checks and balances around nuclear weapons. This is the reason why I say you can't have conversations with people like Emily Austin. Now, Bakari Sellers said a few things that he's 100% bang on the money about. And that is in regards to the JCPOA that Barack Obama managed to negotiate with Iran. Now, you consistently will hear these MAGA, Israel first, Republican people say that the JCPOA was a short-term fix, so it didn't work long-term, or it didn't work. You'll consistently hear them say these things along these lines. But here's the reality. What it is that they're saying, it just isn't true. It just isn't true in any way, shape, or form. Let's actually go through some actual facts. Now, when the JCPOA was put together, Iran went from having enough enriched uranium for 10 plus bombs down to a single bomb's worth. And they enriched only to 3.67%, which is far below weapons grade. Okay? Now, Iran's plutonium pathway was shut down and the Arak reactor core was filled with concrete. The IAEA had the most intrusive inspection regime in history, with 24/7 monitoring and cameras at every key site. And for the entire time that Iran was compliant with the JCPOA, which was between 2016 and 2018, the IAEA confirmed in a report after report that Iran was meeting all of its obligations. Hear this is where it gets interesting. Listen to the research. The problem started after the US pulled out of the JCPOA, not before. Guys, what happened in 2018? Donald Trump came into office. And one of the first things that he done is he ripped up the JCPOA. He withdrew from it in May 2018. Now, you have to understand this. Iran's breakout time went from over a year under the deal to roughly 2 weeks after the withdrawal. Iran resumed enriching to 60%, dangerously close to weapons grade, only after the deal collapsed. Iran also restricted the IAEA inspector access only after the US left. You see, guys, what you have to understand is this. Should Iran have nuclear weapons? I'm just against nuclear weapons just in general, personally. But how can you say to a country like Iran, you can't have nuclear weapons, when a country like Israel do have nuclear weapons? How can you say that? You can't in good faith, in good consciousness, say that. Because the reality is this, when they were a part of it, they abided by it in full. It was only after, and consistently seeing the US take the mick out of them and negotiate in bad faith, that they then started to enrich. Honestly, when you have people like Emily Austin on the show, you always have to remember this. Anything that she's saying, I promise you, she's saying it with the idea of Israel first. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange in the comment section below. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, hype up the video, and turn on the bell notification. Appreciate you guys. See you guys in the next clip.